Hi, folks. Welcome back inside Manhattan Basketball. Chris Heimall joined by the head coach of Manhattan Women's Basketball, John Olenowski. Coach, a pretty successful trip to Buffalo for this team, 2-0 on the weekend.
Yes, it was very successful and certainly something that we were hoping to get, and the ladies came through, had a great weekend, whatever, so all's good right now for our basketball program.
We talked last week about how big this weekend could be considering the way the standings were. Right now you find yourselves alone in 6th place and only a game behind Ryder. Really set yourself up nice for the home stretch.
Well, we have. Of course, it's a very, very difficult home stretch for sure, but we've put ourselves in good position where we're able to kind of control our own destiny, so to speak, and we like the fact that we were able to move above a few teams over the weekend, and again, we got ourselves in a really nice position this late in the season.
Just the second time in program history that you were able to sweep the Buffalo trip. Both have happened under your tutelage. What's the biggest key on that Western New York swing?
Well, I think number one, to make sure you get plenty of rest and to make sure that you don't overwork your players for the practices in between. So we tried to keep everything light and we tried to keep everything, mentally ready. And the girls had the energy and they really had the intensity for both games. And when you play those two teams, you've got to be at your best. Both offensively and defensively, and fortunately we were in both games.
A number of key players really stepped up. Ashley Stecken, a couple of Allison Skreck, Monica Roeder, Shayna Ayer. It seemed like you were getting contributions from all over the place.
Yeah, we did. We had tremendous contributions from all over, and both games really, all the starters stepped up, and we got good quality minutes from people coming in, and so it was just kind of an overall great team effort.
When you look at the way this team has progressed from the beginning of the year to now, what's the one thing that you've noticed most?
Well, I think the biggest thing right now is we're really, really playing solid defense. I think in the last 3 or 4 games, we've kept teams to under 60, with the only exception of Iona, and they're averaging, like 80 points per game. So we kept teams to 31, 44, and 56. And when you can do that, you're going to be in every basketball game. So I think our defense has stepped up, and our defense has really been the staple for us in the nice run that we've had here down the stretch.
We talked prior about scoreboard watching and checking to see what other teams in the conference are doing. How much of a headache is it, number one, as a coach, but then number two, how much do you try kind of to ignore it a little bit and try not to get too involved?
Well, what we try to do is take care of our own business, and we figure if we do that, we can be in pretty good shape. So we really don't look into that until our game is over, and our focus is on our next opponent or whatever. So certainly we see what's going on and we know what position we're in, but we're more interested in taking care of ourselves, and we've been able to do that lately, and it's been really a nice step up for us.
As always, Coach, a couple of fan questions for you. Jessica wanting to know, with late season success, February into March in the MAC tournament, what's the biggest key to late season success?
Well, again, that's a great question, Jessica. But the key really is how you're guarding, how you're defending. So I think if you're really playing great defense, that you have a shot of winning a lot of key basketball games, whatever. And everybody's offense at this point is pretty much the same. You know exactly what they're going to be doing. So when you can defend at your best this time of year, you have a great chance to be successful.
Brian also wanted to know, when you go back and you're playing a team a second time in the season, what's the most important thing you take from maybe the first time around?
Well, I think what we do is we look at our offensive and defensive efficiency charts and see exactly what worked the first time around, and we use those heavily in the basketball game. Sometimes we'll make some adjustments to it and throw some different looks at teams, but when you know what worked the first time around, you stick with it and you make them guard it and defend it. And on the defensive end, because we do play multiple defenses, I think it's very important to know what was successful the first time around, and we did that. We tweaked a few things, but we were able to kind of use it to our advantage a little bit.
Talk a little bit about the mental aspect of coaching, because you talk about getting rest for the players on this Buffalo trip, but how much of it is getting them mentally set to not exert themselves emotionally that Friday or that Thursday to be able to come back with the same intensity on Saturday?
Yeah, that's a very difficult task, especially when your team is very, very young. But what we were able to do is get great leadership from our captains who are seniors, whatever, and I'm sure they filled the girls in with exactly what was needed to be able to get both, because their freshman year was when we swept the first time. So I think they led us by example, and I think they led us throughout and had everybody ready to play and fresh and really, really smart with the way that we handle ourselves up there.
As we've mentioned before on the show, the scheduling hasn't exactly been the best of friends to Manhattan here this year, but that is just how it lies.
Right.
On the road this weekend at Fairfield, and then you get the host Marist coming up on Sunday, two very tough opponents.
Yeah, very, very much so. And again, we have a little different mindset, I think, than most teams. I mean, we welcome these type challenges, and we look forward to them, and they're both tremendous basketball teams, and they're so well coached. But, we're excited about the opportunity. We're excited about the fact that we're playing really, really well. So, we're confident that we can step up and play well in these basketball games, and we're just looking forward to a great opportunity for us.
Two teams that, again, the first time that you met, similar to Niagara and Iona, had them for a good chunk of time, and then there was a stretch of about 6-7 minutes where you don't want to say it fell apart, but just things didn't go your way. When you look at those first games, how much do you try to bottle, like you did against Iona the second time around, like you did against Niagara, bottle what you had and extended the full 40 minutes?
Well, you certainly try to take some things that worked for you in those particular games, but I think the team that we are right now and the team that played those two opponents early in the season are completely different. Mm-hmm. I think we've got a lot more confidence in our abilities. I think that defensively we're playing twice as good as we were back then. And I think that we're getting a lot of good balanced scoring from a number of individuals. So that makes us a little more difficult to guard. So I like to think that we're a much, much better basketball team than we played both those Giants early in the year.
Fairfield, one of the top teams in the conference, playing them on the road. Obviously, they've got a number of talented players, but what's the biggest key when you take on Coach Frager's Stags?
Well, number one, they play such great defense, so you have to make sure that offensively you don't have any droughts and you take care of the basketball and you get a good, smart shot every time down. But they're so difficult to guard because they've got a tremendous outside shooter in Vasquez, whatever, and Schatzlin is also a very good outside shooter, and DeCruz is tremendous with the ball. But I think the strength of their basketball team is their inside game. Szynski can be inside and out. She's such a great shooter. But you got Obi Tabit, who's very, very tough inside there, whatever. And they've got really good depth coming in off the bench. And they're very difficult to guard, and you've got to be at your best to be able to stay with them. And we're looking forward to the challenge, but we know we've got our hands full.
And then you've got a quick turnaround. You get Marist at home on Sunday. With regards to the mental aspect, we talk about it on the road at Buffalo, but what's going to be your biggest key for the mental aspect of these two games coming up?
Well, I think, once again, that Fairfield is a great opponent on Friday, and, one day of preparation for Marist is never easy, but I think we know them very well, and I think we know their tendencies and what they like to do, and it's just really a question of stepping up and playing a really, really high-level basketball game to be able to compete. And we know we've done that in the past, so we look at it like we've got nothing to lose other than go out there and play our best basketball and let the chips fall where they may.
Down the stretch they come. 4 more games left in the regular season for Manhattan women's basketball. They take on Fairfield in Connecticut this coming Friday night, and then on Sunday here at 2 o'clock at Draddy Gymnasium when they host the Marist Red Foxes. Coach, as always, thanks a lot for the time.
Thank you, Christian. Appreciate it.
If you have a question you'd like to submit to Coach, you can tweet us at GoJaspers. You can email us gojaspers@manhattan.edu. And don't forget, you can follow Coach on Twitter at John Olenowski. And until then, we'll see you next time inside Manhattan Basketball.